Hi folks, how are you? As always, a wonderful experience to share with you and speak to you about contemporary topics in life and careers. I'm sure if that is something of interest to you or that is a line which is of interest to you, you'll probably be happy to subscribe to this channel. On a very interesting topic, a very quick podcast, unconventional interview questions, or how do you handle interviews is the topic is. You probably have numerous kind of perspectives on how you should handle interviews and things like that, but here I probably choose to offer some tips which are probably not mentioned very often by a lot of HR consultants or career coaches or whatever. So I probably think that you'll watch till the end to benefit from the insights in this particular podcast. First things first, compensation. How much should you open up on a compensation? Expected compensation is always a big dilemma. The one can never underestimate the power of money. End of the day, I keep repeating to my peers and my candidates or whomever is my network that money is probably the most important or singular driving factor which should probably build your career. Unfortunately, a lot of people we're all tuned to think that money is something which is very bad and we should probably only look at role, career growth and things like that. And that is what organizations believe you should do. But unfortunately, end of the day, why do we all work so hard for? It is probably for earning much more money or more money than what we do. And in that sense, a job switch or a job hop essentially is also about looking for more money, much more than what we are earning now. It could be probably 30%, 40%, 20% or whatever, depending on what level of your career you're on and how much you deserve, you think you deserve, and also what is the kind of market benchmarks for compensation. But that said, a very important factor which you should understand is that whenever you speak in interviews or interview situations, be it with headhunters, placement consultants, or directly with the talent acquisition team of the corporate whom you are applying for, or they approach you for a job, try and position that you probably aren't giving too much of importance to the monetary part and let that take a back seat. Talk more about what kind of a role they are offering you, what is the kind of job description on hand, what is the kind of KRAs, what is the kind of roles and responsibilities, how much you will grow in terms of roles and responsibilities, how much will your span of control or the entire job canvas increase over what you are doing. Speak more about that, elicit more details about that, and then you can always tell them that, like, money we can discuss much later. What I'm very keen is to understand what kind of a role it is and whether that role will excite me, and also that whether I can deliver for that particular role. That is probably one of the best ways to handle what do you expect part, or what do you expect as compensation part. And many a times we get calls from consultants, placement consultants, even from the HR. HR does a preliminary assessment after probably shortlisting your profile from one of these job portals, and they tend to ask that as a very first question. They immediately say that it is a question of fitment. We really want to see whether you will fit the role and things like that. But you probably can handle it very diplomatically by saying that yes, I probably will be happy with a market pegged hike or a market pegged increment, and as it is, I'm not really giving too much of importance to the compensation we will discuss much later. That is the best way to position you in terms of what kind of compensation you're expecting. As I said, this is just a diplomatic stand. I do often repeat that yeah, money is also a primary motivator when you change a job, particularly once you probably cross the threshold of 10 years of experience. Obviously, the monetary growth has to be much more significant than what you are earning in the initial part of your career. But that's it for interview sake, from being an interviewee's perspective. I think you should bear that in mind, that be it a consultant, be it a headhunter, or be it a corporate talent acquisition team, or probably if it is a hiring manager who's directly approaching you, it is very important to remember that you should probably give an impression that you're giving monetary growth or money itself a backseat. I think that is the first and foremost thing. I know a lot of people keep talking about it, but I thought it is very important for me to emphasize that. The second thing is, I think I would say KYC. I know KYC is normally a big headache with banks and financial institutions, particularly with this Aadhaar and PAN card nightmare linking in India and things like that. But Here, what I mean by KYC is know your customer, know your target listener. I would put it that way. Whom are you talking to? Are you talking to a HR consultant? Are you talking to a talent acquisition team member in the corporate? Or are you talking to the hiring manager? Because the kind of depth of answers, the depth of responses which you give essentially has to depend on whom you're talking to. If it is a HR person, you probably can only give emphasis to your personal side, your soft skills, your competencies as a person and things like that, and maybe a little bit about your skill sets and competencies, because they aren't the right persons to judge your technical competency, your wherewithal to deliver on the job and things like that. So that is very, very important. Whereas if it is a hiring manager, when I say hiring manager, a functional manager, he is not judging you for what you talk or what kind of a personality you are, because that is being taken care of by talent acquisition. Every word you utter, every line you say, he is probably only judging you in terms of how much you are good at the job, how well are you reflecting what you have written your CV, on your CV, primarily from the job content point of view. You're talking about what have you done in the past roles, what are your accomplishments. So he's probably going to judge every single word you utter very, very critically based on whatever you've written on your profile, and he's going to see whether there is a connect between what you speak and what you've written in the job content part of the CV. And in the end of the day, that is the most meaty part of your CV. What is very, very important in your career graph, as long as your CV is concerned or resume is concerned, is what have you written in terms of accomplishments, what is the job you've done, how long you've been at the company, and in that duration in the company, what is the kind of milestones you've achieved, what do you think your accomplishments and things like that. So KYC, know your customer, depending on who your customer is. Here the customer is listening to you in terms of what you are saying. Every word is being judged. So if you are talking to a regular normal placement consultant, you have to probably take it a little lightly and speak more about your personal skills, more about your personal brand and things like that. Whereas if it is your hiring manager, you probably have to emphasize more on what your accomplishments as a professional. Likewise, even in placement consultants, once you cross a fair amount of experience level and move to that middle and senior management level, headhunters are going to come knocking your doors. And when headhunters are talking to you, essentially headhunters also come with a lot of domain understanding, domain knowledge, and we have to speak very, very differently to a normal junior placement consultant as compared to somebody who is a headhunter, because a headhunter has got immense knowledge. He's done a lot of research about you. He's done research on LinkedIn, and believe me, a lot of times headhunters, when they talk to you, for example, if they approach you for a senior management role, they have at least spoken to about 5 people about you before they speak to you. You should remember that in mind. Most people don't really understand this part. They do a lot of research, because headhunters are paid very, very high by companies to hire people at senior level. So headhunters also are responsible to vet every hire, and in that sense, even before they probably approach you first, they probably had conversations with 5-6 people, and then only they come and talk to you. So that is a kind of seriousness you have to attach to people who are coming to you with headhunting qualifications. So you obviously know that there are 2 kinds of recruitment firms. One is a contingency recruitment firm, which is into volume hiring. The other, you have executive search firms, which are essentially hiring very, very senior people for client organizations. So the way you behave, the way you speak has to be very, very different when it is a normal placement consultant as compared to that of an executive search. So in that sense, in every stage, the 4 stages: 1, the talent acquisition team of the company calls you; 2, the hiring manager of the company calls you; 3, a placement consultant calls you; and 4, the a headhunter calls you. Everywhere the style, the tone and tenor of your delivery has to be different. The content of what you talk has to be different. So this is probably, I would think, a very, very underrated job hunting tip, which probably people take very lightly. Many times, if you aren't in a position to speak elaborately about your professional richness and contribution, ideally in the case of these hiring managers and headhunters, I think you should probably ask for rescheduling the call. Tell them that you're probably more comfortable speaking at length and in a different time slot and things like that. Whereas if it is a HR person from a company or a normal executive normal recruitment executive, you can probably take it very, very lightly. It is very, very important to understand these dynamics as far as job hunting is concerned. And believe me, this is very, very underrated in today's job market. A lot of times, if you don't speak appropriately to hiring manager or to an executive search consultant, irrespective of how good you are, you probably are losing a wonderful opportunity. And this, I think, is very, very underrated. That's why a lot of these interview tips, what I tell you, could be very, very generic or sound very, very generic. But the fact remains that these are very, very underrated aspects in a job hunting thing. Again, as another thing which I wanted to say is, in any call or in any interview discussion, other than the first screening call which a placement consultant or a HR executive does, even to them, I think you should ask what they are, which company they represent, what is the role they do, and even as you speak to them, probably you should care to do some research on forums like LinkedIn and things like that. Immediately, even without their sharing information, you'll know very, very well as to what they are, and position your talk with them appropriately. And particularly once you finish the screening rounds and you are going to the next levels, advancing in these multiple levels of interviewing rounds with organizations or headhunting firms, I think in every stage you need to understand, or you need to really do research as to whom you are talking to. There is abundant amount of information available about people on LinkedIn, on social media, and just even the internet. I mean, today you just have to put the full name of the person and the organization on the internet, and you are going to get tens and tens of results in terms of to get a feel about what the personality is. So I think you should do that as a regular practice, and I would say not just seniors, but even people who are at entry level or middle level should probably start following this practice. It will be of great help to you in terms of understanding whom you are talking to and positioning your words and deeds appropriately. In the case of the advancing rounds, obviously you clearly can communicate to the junior people and ask them as to whom am I talking to, what is the person, what is the person's job title, and based on once you are equipped with that information and you are backed up with research on the internet, you probably are going to be in a very, very strong point of view to handle them in interviews. I think that is also a very, very important point which I wanted to mention. The next important thing which I wanted to say is never market your personal miseries. Of course, I have taken pains to put up a full video about this. You can probably, if you run through my channel, you'll see that I speak at length about marketing personal miseries. And this is very, very important, both if you are just a normal person who's hunting from one job to another without the gap, or even if you are someone with a job gap, you've probably taken a sabbatical because of some personal reasons, and then you're looking for a job. You obviously have a valid reason which you're going to tell an interview point of view. You're going to say that you took a break because of personal reasons. You wanted to tend to somebody on the personal front. You probably wanted to do a short-term course, whatever it is. But beyond that prima facie reason, I think you should not market your personal miseries in any job interview, both with recruitment consultants as well as in the case of hiring managers and recruitment executives directly from the corporates, because nobody cares. I keep saying this. Once you, I know all of us undergo multiple challenges. All of us have our own share of personal woes and personal challenges. But if you believe me, the job market doesn't care for your personal miseries, and yes, it will generate some sympathy, but unfortunately at some point in the interviewing process or hiring process, or believe me, even after getting hired, there is a tendency with any human being to exploit that vulnerability of yours. So by actually marketing your personal misery, you are making yourselves more vulnerable on the personal front. Yes, position yourselves very, very strongly on the personal front. You speak your skill sets, you speak your competencies. You might have downsides on your professional front, that is all perfectly fine, but never speak about or expose your downsides on the personal front to anybody for that matter. I would in fact say that unless otherwise somebody is extremely close to you as a friend or a relative and things like that, other than that nobody cares. Even if you're it could be your friends, you could be your connects on LinkedIn, you could be your social media friends. Just about nobody cares today about the personal woes and miseries, and if at all they care, there is a field that they have to exploit or make use of, make I wouldn't say misuse, I would say subliminally, with unconsciously, there is a tendency to exploit that. And from a workplace point of view, believe me, this exploitation happens very, very unconsciously. They might offer you a job, but once you settle down in the job, and in every stage where your contribution is extremely good, there is this tendency to see that contribution in the back of whatever personal information you shared, and that is, or that will always be in terms of a negative connotation for your career. So I repeat, don't market your personal miseries, however serious they may be. Stay away from marketing your personal miseries. As a matter of fact, now there are lots of people in the recruitment industry who say that even your personal information is not required to be shared on the CV, because that is not required. What is required is only your basic information in terms of how they should reach you and things like that. That apart, your educational qualification, year of qualification, and after that the career chronology. Besides this, nothing else matters, because end of the day you're going to get hired only on the merit of whatever is this professional information. They even say that personal information should not be shared. So if that is the case, then why would you market your personal miseries, however serious they are? So it is a fervent appeal by me to you, and again, it is very, very understated. Never market your personal miseries in any job interview. It is not going to be of any help to you. The next underrated tip I would say is, a lot of times we come across what is perceived as difficult questions or maybe uncomfortable questions in an interview process. This is not much in the case of a recruitment consultant or a headhunter, but once you start advancing in your interview rounds in a corporate, there are going to be situations where either in a video conferencing or in a personal face-to-face discussions, you are going to get questions which probably zap you for a moment. In those things, there is absolutely nothing wrong in probably telling the interviewer that, look, why don't you give me a couple of minutes to gather my thoughts on this, and probably you can just put up a smile and start thinking in terms of how you should answer such difficult questions or uncomfortable questions. Don't instantly react, or don't probably, even if these questions are we bit provocative, which they would be, because they also would want to test your emotional intelligence. In those cases, the best way to handle it would be to pause, think, tell them you are pausing and thinking, and then answer that particular question. And if it is a very, very uncomfortable question, I would say you probably can even give it a pass. Let them ask it in subsequent rounds, or if that was not an important question, let them give it a pass. If it is a crucial question, they will emphasize the fact that it is a very, very crucial question and you must answer, and in that case you can probably decide on how you will word your answers. But otherwise, if it gets too uncomfortable or you feel you are on a knot, I think the best thing is to probably gather a few moments, take time, and then pace your answer accordingly. That is the best way to handle such situations. The other, I'm referring to my notes. The other most important thing and underrated thing is, I know it's a cliche. Common sense is very, very uncommon. So when you are in interview situations, I think very practically, think very without any pressure, and also have a lot of self-esteem, because unfortunately, at least culturally in India, once we go and hunt for a job, we feel that we are at the mercy of the organization. It is never like that. It is a perfect synchrony of what you have to offer in terms of your ability and what they need in a job. It is just a marriage of both. It is a marriage of convenience mutually. You are not asking for any favor. You are marketing your abilities, you are marketing your resume, and based on the merits of whatever your professional qualification is, they are going to hire you. There is nothing more, nothing less. So irrespective, as I said, irrespective of how difficult your situation is or how personally challenging your things are on for you, I think never have this mindset that I am at the mercy of the organizations which hire me. That will only kill your self-esteem. Irrespective of what condition you are in, I think you should put up a brave face, have a lot of self-esteem, gather a lot of self-confidence. I think look back for a minute about your accomplishments, about how good your professional you have been, recreate the wonderful milestones which you probably accomplished in your entire career. Think about those moments where you really achieved things in your life, because These things are turning points in our career as far as we are concerned, and recreating that and thinking about them really gives us a lot of self-confidence. So what happens is, mentally you're not really thinking about much of negative things. You are looking at the positive aspects of yourself and then giving prominence to them and playing it in your mind and kicking up your self-esteem. And as long as the self-esteem is intact, believe me, no interview is going to be difficult. At the same time, consciously or unconsciously, you're not allowing anybody to exploit you because you come with a low self-esteem. That is the most important thing in any interview. I think right from freshers to probably very, very CXO, CEO hires, unless otherwise you go with a tremendous amount of self-esteem, it is going to reflect in the way the market judges you, the job market judges you, and the hiring managers with their experience very, very, very clearly will see that there is a lack of self-esteem. And believe me, again, even you might be a perfect fit for that particular role, but they'll probably buy you cheap, if I can use that word. So end of the day, their job is to buy people cheap because they're going to be rated accordingly. No HR person's job, no talent acquisition manager's job, no hiring manager's job is to give you the best of salary and things like that. They probably will be very happy to buy multiple people at a cheap thing, because end of the day or end of the year, they're going to be rated in their appraisals for how cheaply they bought people into the organization. So in that sense, I think self-esteem is very, very important. And coming back to common sense, what do I mean by common sense? I really cannot elaborate on it other than giving one or two very, very quick examples. One example, I had referred somebody for a VP marketing role in a technology company years back. The CEO of the company and the CXO of the company were ready to interview this person, and those were the days of face-to-face interviews pre-COVID. You didn't have the culture of video conferencing calls and even making offers without meeting the person face-to-face. So in those days of face-to-face interviews, this person, whom I referred as a very, very senior candidate, had gone for the interview and was in the waiting hall of this or the front office lobby of this organization for about 1.5 hours. And he didn't, other than waiting, he didn't do anything. He didn't go and keep nudging the front office lady there, saying that why is it getting late, where are these people? And he probably could have asked her to give them a call and find them out, or even better, taken their mobile number. You say that I'm a very, very senior candidate, I can't waste my time, so you please give me the mobile number, let me call and find out. Or all he had to do is probably give me a call and ask me what is happening, so that I would have called this CEO or CXO, or probably shared the number to the senior candidate, asked him to reach out to them. He did nothing of this for about 120 minutes, and I had to call, once I called him about 2 hours, what happened in the interview? He said, I'm in the waiting hall for the past 2 hours. Immediately I called this CEO who was the hiring or decision maker in that particular day, and I asked him what is happening. He was taken aback, saying that, are you saying that this person is waiting here in my front office without doing anything for the past 1.5, 2 hours? Then immediately he said something which actually I was kind of shocked at that point, but looking back in hindsight, it made eminent sense. He said, Murli, just because he probably spent about 2 hours here, I will probably meet him and speak to him, but I don't think I'll hire him, irrespective of how good he is. I asked him why. Why do you say that? Said, because if he's going to be a good candidate, why don't you? He said, he might be a good candidate, but he doesn't have an aura about himself. He doesn't consider time is important. He probably didn't have the common sense to probably push my front office girl, common sense to call you and take my number and speak to me, and the common sense to see how quickly he can reach to me. How can he sit and waste 2 hours? He should have reacted in 15 or 20 minutes time in such a situation. So this is what I talk about, common sense. I mean, I keep emphasizing this to every single senior candidate of mine, and I'm sure you can relate it when I say common sense. This is very, very important. How you react in the situation. Are you reacting based on your stature? Are you reacting with self-esteem? So there can be multiple situations where you need to act without being aggressive, but you have to assert yourself and put your self-esteem up and say that, look, I cannot waste time. Look, I have to be met now, and things like that. So very, very important. You might be extremely skilled, extremely competent, but if you lack this aspect, lack that basic common sense, there could be many other words for it, then you're not going to get hired at particularly senior and middle roles. So these are all the very, very interesting perspectives which I wanted to offer on attending interviews, on getting your next good job. Again, some of these are very, very generic, but some of these are very, very understated. I'm sure you'll find these tips extremely useful and worthy of sharing with your friends and peers. Thanks for your time. It's been a fairly long podcast, but I think it is very, very important for us to understand where things go wrong in interviews. I'll see you soon in another podcast. Pleasure talking to you. Have a wonderful life and career ahead. Thank you.